For latest updates and short audio clips, follow us on Instagram, Reading the Author.
Hey guys, welcome back to the podcast Reading the Author, a unique show where we read authors' mind and not their book. Meanwhile, I truly believe and pray that you and your families are completely safe and healthy as well. Guys, today we have Meenakshi Rao ma'am with us, and she is the author of altogether 3 books. The first one, The Perfect Cage, the second, Nalanda, and the third, the latest, the final one, is The Shiva Particle. Thank you so much, ma'am, for coming on our show. I'm truly grateful that you have chosen us.
Thank you, Gaurav, for having me. It's always such a pleasure to talk to you.
Pleasure, ma'am. So, ma'am, before we get into the podcast, I know much more about your books, about your, upcoming projects, about your take on different aspect of this industry. I would request you to please introduce yourself, ताकि हमारे listeners आपके बारे में और जान सकें, and do share how you started this writing journey.
Sure. So, just to give you a little bit of background about me, I'm a British Indian citizen. In other words, I consider myself a Mumbai girl, but I do have a British citizenship. And that's because I did my education, my MBA in the UK, and I climbed the corporate ladder, as you would say, in the UK in Fortune 500 companies. I was at director level with several companies, including Barclays, Ernst& Young. So a technologist by training. But however, I think that I embarked on a very spiritual search to find myself. And that eventually led to me becoming an author and also returning to India in 2022. And I think I feel my Bharatiya identity and my Bharatiya presence very strongly now.
Okay, lovely,
So
ma'am.
that's just a little bit about me.
Definitely. So, ma'am, after listening to this podcast, many people will just love to explore the books. They might be interested in buying and reading it too. So, talking from, let's say, a new reader's perspective, what a new reader can expect from your books? Can you share some insights with us?
Absolutely. I think most of my books have, very different themes and stories. One is fictional, two are non-fictional. But the fulcrum, the foundation of all my books is Sanatan Dharma. And it is the Bharatiya identity. And I think that a new reader can expect to learn about certain things in a very simplified fashion. I write very short books. In fact, when I actually write, I write only 108 pages. And that is because of the 108 beads on the Rudraksh. But when it gets published, they add pages and they create sections, so it becomes 130-ish pages. So it's a very short read. It's a one weekend read, and each book is to share both experience as well as knowledge, so that there are others who are walking this path of seeking themselves. I think they would find some insights in my book.
Okay. So, any specific reason to keep this book so short, ma'am? Because what I personally feel that this podcast is also we try to keep it between 20-25 maximum 30 minutes, because audience retention is getting very low. So was that the main concern, to keep the book very short so that anybody can just pick up it and read? What's that?
Absolutely, Gaurav. You've hit the nail on the head, because we live in a very, very instant kind of society. People want quick gratification. Time has taken on a different meaning. And unfortunately or fortunately, I think fortunately, people do watch and I think they get a lot of information by watching and listening as opposed to reading. So I want to bring back the reading habit in people. And in order to do that, the attention span, which, as you so rightly mentioned, has shrunk. I think that books now need to be quick, easy reads for the audience to actually relate to it and actually finish the book. The era of writing War and Peace is definitely over.
Exactly, ma'am. I agree on that. So, ma'am, as we talked about the perspective of a new reader, now coming to a person who have already read a book, because we will be sharing this, the posts will be on social media. So definitely people who have already read your books, they might be also listening to this podcast. So what a person who have already read your book can expect from you as of now? Are you writing something, you want to experiment a bit on some, let's say, other genres, you want to stick to these only? What's upcoming?
Absolutely. So I think, first of all, let me tell you what my motivation for writing books is. My motivation for writing books is that I found myself through my spiritual quest. And I feel that Sanatan Dharma is such a huge and beautiful body of knowledge that it should not be lost to the world. We need to talk about it, but we need to talk about it in a very contemporary flavor, so that now when the world is going to go through the AI revolution, is going to go through very uncertain geopolitical conditions, you will find that at this time, it can be a guiding light to many. And that is my main motivation, that all of us must do our bit. If we reach 10 people, then that's 10 people whose lives have been touched. And that is enough. This is not money making, mass production, any of that. For me, I have my business life that takes care of my economic needs, let us say. So that's my motivation. And therefore, with that motivation, I've decided that besides writing books, I've launched my own podcast, which is called The Bharatiya Frequency. And please, if you can, follow me on YouTube for it if it's of interest to you. We also have an Instagram page for The Bharatiya Frequency. It's just 2 weeks old, the launch. So, hopefully that also touches hearts with the information that I would like to. The other thing that I have taken up now is one-to-one spiritual life coaching.
Okay.
And I think I've gone into this genre because life coaching doesn't come from getting a certificate online. It comes from living your life,
Yeah,
having
exactly.
faced the ups and downs of life, and being able to reach people, not just with your life experience, but with the body of knowledge that you have, by the grace of God, managed to acquire over time by investing time in reading and learning. So that sort of motivated me to come. It's not mass, it's not a one size fits all, it's not a program. There are no funnels with, hooking people and
Yeah.
earning. It's nothing like that. It's me one to one with somebody trying to provide what little I know. So,
Love.
just one last thing. I forgot to mention the new book I'm writing because this is about the author. So, I'm just writing my, strangely, fourth and fifth book. And the reason that is that that's how I write. Sometimes I jump between two books. I burn out on one book and then I jump into the other. So, they're two very different books.
Okay.
One book I'm writing is for children. And that's new to me. This is the first children's book I'm writing. And again, it's about the beautiful stories of Sanatan that will inculcate the value system that our children need to have. They say if you don't choose your children's heroes, they'll choose them for themselves. And at that age, that might not always be the right choice.
Exactly.
So it's to help that generation, but I've given it a very, very contemporary feel that kids today will relate to. These are the gamers these days. These are the guys who are spending their life on Xboxes. So you need to have this information given to them in a manner that's easy to consume, and that is relatable. So even this is the first book that has a lot of visuals. They are AI generated visuals, but I've given it an extremely contemporary feel. The fifth book, which I'm writing simultaneously, because sometimes my brain thinks about this
Hmm.
and sometimes it thinks about that, is about Shakti and feminism
Okay.
and the Sanatan feminist. That book is about the Sanatan feminist because I think that, we have this beautiful culture where the woman is revered. And somewhere along the way, through the invasions and through, I think, the corruption of Bharatiya culture, that Sanatan feminist has been kind of lost. And so, this is my attempt to bring that alive as well.
Lovely, ma'am. So definitely there's a couple of things for the readers who have already read a book. Now, coming to the portion, ma'am, as we talked about the new reader, now talked about the people who already read a book. Now, coming to the impact you want to create on that reader's mind. लेट्स से आज से 1-2 साल बाद अगर कोई देखता है कि इट्स अ बुक बाय मीनाक्षी राव मैम, एक नई रिलीज हुई, लेट्स से द
Anji.
फोर्थ एंड फिफ्थ वन, ओके, सो व्हाट
Mm.
सडन इम्पैक्ट यू वांट टू क्रिएट ऑन दैट रीडर्स माइंड, उसके दिमाग में क्या आना चाहिए कि इट्स अ बुक बाय मीनाक्षी मैम तो इट हैज टू बी लाइक दैट, उसकी वाइब ऐसी होगी, इस टॉपिक पे होगी, मुझे इस बारे में बताएगी, इस तरीके से लिखी गई होगी. हैव यू एवर थॉट अबाउट दैट, from a personal branding perspective?
Absolutely. I think my personal brand is contemporary Sanatan. if I have to use two words, I would say it's contemporary Sanatan. Because Sanatan, the word itself, as I'm sure you're very aware, Gaurav, it is eternal knowledge. It is knowledge that is applicable in any yuga. It is applicable at any time. But sometimes the mode of communication has to be more contemporary. So that's one, contemporary. The other thing that I would say is my brand value almost is I would use the word synopsis. I would use the word summary. So, for example, again, going back to the fact that it's a fast paced life and people don't have the time, I may have read the Brihadaranya Upanishad end to end, or I may have read the Rig Veda, but how many people are willing to invest the time? So, when you read my book, and let's say you know nothing about Sanatan, zero square, if you pick up the perfect cage, by the time you finish reading that book, you will know a synopsis of everything that is Sanatan, whether it is the Upanishads, the Vedas, the Agamas, the Puranas. In that small book, there is a chapter on each one of them. So I think it is to meet people where they are today, which is in a very fast-paced environment, and it is Sanatan. It's a capsule of Sanatan that you can swallow.
Definitely. So, ma'am, like, I am in this industry for more than 8 years as of now, and this podcast is from last 4 years we are done, and I have been fortunate enough, to have personal in conversation with more than 450 to 500 authors. And what I
Wow.
have closely seen that there is something that has worked for many authors, and there is something that has not worked for many authors. Like, I'm talking in terms of marketing and distribution, because publishing has become much more easier. Like, you have KDP, we have
Yeah.
self-publishing, lots of literary agents are there, traditionally already there. So in this period of time, like when your first book was released and till now, कुछ ऐसा आपके साथ, have you came across any such strategy or any such, services or something like that has worked for you and that has given you the most ROI कि नहीं, इस चीज को मैं अपने हर बुक में करूंगी because it is helping me to reach out to max people I can. कभी हुआ है ऐसा?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think that today, in some ways, it's very complicated, and in some ways, it's very simple. So I think if I put on my business hat, because the other things that I do, as I mentioned, I'm a technologist. We have our family businesses in renewable energy, in investments that I also am fully hands on and operational with. So when it comes to marketing, I look at it from a business perspective. And I think that is an advantage I have, because a lot of creative people are not business minded, So when I do that, I think कि आज कल बहुत easy भी हो गया है because of social media, and the same social media makes it very difficult also. Social media एक बहुत बड़ा एक समुंदर है जिसमें अगर आप कूद लोगे तो you would just be sinking in it without hitting the target. So I think the key thing here is specificity. When you talked of my brand, of what do I write for and who do I write to, so मैंने अपना जो target audience है उसको बहुत clearly define किया है.
Okay.
And at the same time, my messaging ये भी बहुत clear है कि मैं क्या कहना चाह रही हूँ, क्या है flavor. Don't try to be all things to all people. That never works. You can't be a generalist in today's world. That's one thing. Second thing is, जब आप सोशल मीडिया को यूज करना चाह रहे हो अपने बुक्स को प्रमोट करने के लिए, यू हैव टू हैव एन एड बजट. I mean, it's very basic, and unfortunately, it might be a limitation for certain people, but it is true. If you don't boost, you try, you post, and you don't boost, you'll get 3, 4, 500 views depending on your followership. You boost, you get 100,000 views on that video. I have had 200,000 views on some of my posts, 300,000 views. And views don't necessarily translate into followership. And you should design your followership. Don't try to grow suddenly. Don't buy followers. Don't do all of that. Let it be organic and let it be meaningful. For example, I have a very limited followership, although it's very new that I have started promoting followers for me. But you see the degree of engagement on my dashboard. It is very high.
That's what matters. Yeah.
So I would say that, build your brand, invest in building yourself as an author, and the books will sell themselves.
Agree on that, ma'am. In fact, what I also suggest to many authors, that they fall for the trap of the numbers. And I tell them the numbers are not something that is very much matters in this world, because everyone knows how to buy the follower, how to buy the like and all. It's the constant engagement that hits your profile, and that's help you grow. But
Absolutely.
exactly, that clarity has to be there कि अगर 100 फॉलोअर्स हैं, दैट डजंट मीन कि आपके पास 100 लोगों की एंगेजमेंट आएंगी. बट अगर वो सच में आपके पास सिर्फ 5 भी है ना, एंड दे आर कॉन्स्टेंटली एंगेजिंग द कंटेंट एंड दे आर रिलेटिंग टू इट, दैट इज द मेन एसेंस.
So true. Well said, Gaurav. And I think that engagement आपको shares में भी दिखेंगे, not just likes and followership, but how many saves, how many shares. Those are things. And also as an author, you're not always writing, right? It takes some
Obviously.
time to bring out a book.
True.
So in the meantime, continue to engage with your audience by sharing of yourself. I always also post a lot of personal videos. I'm at somebody's birthday, it's there. So letting people know who you are, what you represent is very important.
Bilkul. And in fact, ma'am, I would like to add one more thing here, that sharing every time about your book is not something that gonna fruitful to readers, because हर वक्त तो आपकी किताब नहीं, वो उस किताब के पीछे के इंसान को भी जानना चाहते हैं कि what exactly, how the process is going on, what exactly he or she is doing, and what's the thought on the particular topic that is trending as of now. So these kinds of things build a kind of bond or connection, we can see, with the readers, and that also helps in selling the books and all.
No, you're 100% right, Gaurav. I think I couldn't have put it better myself. Well said. Because I think that, knowing the person, knowing the author, knowing behind the scenes, being vulnerable, being human, these things actually make the audience relate to you. It's okay. I've always held this as my, mantra, even when in my corporate avatar where I lead teams and global teams, I have allowed myself to fail spectacularly in front of them. Because it gives great confidence actually to your team to also take initiative and fail. So, putting yourself out there and being vulnerable to, people to judge you and label you is okay.
Exactly. And that's what people most connect to, because everyone is perfect on social media. So that's how people just, they don't find it connecting. So, ma'am, as of now, like, what's your current writing schedule? Like, every day you devote some particular hours to your writing, or it's like random कि कभी कोई thought आया तो phone में या diary में लिख लिया, बाद में बैठ के elaborate कर रहे हैं. How does it goes with you?
So, by training, again, going back to my profession of being a technologist and having led very large programs of work, global, across 150 countries sometimes, it is very important to be organized, right? Because you can't deliver otherwise in such environments. So my training and my brain wiring is extremely logical. It's extremely organized. And I schedule everything and manage my time because I do a lot. I'm running 2 companies. I write books. I've just launched my podcast. I do, spiritual coaching now, and that's just started taking off. So if I don't manage my time, I will not deliver anything. Kuch nahi kar paungi main. So my day is well scheduled. I make sure that I set aside minimum 1 hour every day is set aside for my writing. Similarly, I have slots for my other activities besides my 9 to 5. And at the same time, I also make sure that, I cut off time in my schedule for me time, for doing the things I love, whether it's meeting my friends, whether it's going for a meal, whether it's enjoying a show or theater. I make sure that my weekends have things where I also enjoy myself, because only a happy person can, communicate effectively. So yes, I do have a writing schedule, and I am very disciplined about sticking to it.
So, ma'am, now let's get back to the time when you first time heard कि okay, tomorrow your book will be live. Everybody will be able to buy it, read it, judge you on the basis of what you have written, because generally लोगों का यही conception होता है कि it is all about the reflection of thoughts, and उसके mind में यही चल रहा था इसीलिए उसने लिख दिया, right? So on that particular evening, like एक दिन पहले उस शाम को, what was going on your mind? Like, were you relaxed, excited? You just marked up some milestones कि इतने लोग मुझे जानते हैं, इतनी तो सेल करनी पड़ेगी किताब को. What was going on in your mind at that time?
Gaurav, As I said, for me, the books are not an economic means of existence. I'll be very
Hmm.
transparent and
Hmm.
honest about that. तो कितने बिकेंगे और क्या मिलेगा तो was not even a thought in my mind. But I did want my message to go out. So that's why I was very excited. I was
Okay.
like a child, you know, or I was like a mom who's giving birth to her first child. So it was a very exciting time. But at the same time, in terms of what I actually did, I think for me, in my office, I have a little mandir, and I have my parents and my guru's photo there. So
Okay.
I lit a little lamp, and मैंने बस आशीर्वाद सीख किया. And when it comes to the evening, my every evening, whether usually from about 10 o'clock in the night up to about 12 o'clock, is 2 hours where I do sadhana. I do mantra sadhana. I follow the Dakshinacharya Tantra mark of sadhana, and given by my guru. I have diksha from my guru Om Swamiji, and I spend my 2 hours every night doing my sadhana because it makes you so stable inside yourself. And so that was the standard routine that I followed. I think the more exciting thing for me was when I got the first copy in my
Uh-huh.
hand, and I was in office when I got it, and I
Hmm.
run my business with my son.
Okay.
So the first thing I did was take the first copy, and I wrote a note for him
Acha.
on it, signed it. I walked into his cabin and I
Hmm.
gave it to him.
Author
And my
copy.
son also very proudly gives my books to to a lot of his very high net worth individual friends.
So, ma'am, like what I was about to ask you is, as an author, what are the things which you are focusing upon in life? Like when it comes to the books that has been already published and the books that are about to release, what are the things which you are focusing when it comes to both of them?
Yeah. So I think my writing, for me, the focus of my writing is very straightforward. There are two things. As I said, it's my soapbox on which I stand and make a speech about Sanatan. Because, as I said, this body of knowledge, this messaging has to be kept alive in the world and must reach as many people as it can reach. And unless we all make our effort, it is going to be lost. For me, Sanatan is not about divisive politics.
Hmm.
For me, it is about the extreme respect I have for this body of knowledge. And I think that, you can only gain that respect and practice it if you know about it. Right? So I'm trying to make it known. And the focus for me for writing, for my books, for my life at this point is about giving back to society. And I can say that with all honesty. These are not fancy words I'm using, because when it comes to my own life and my commercial requirements, I have a different part of me that deals with that. That's my life. And even there, I'm very happy to say that our work involves sustainable green energy, solar energy. So, in a way, it helps give back to the planet.
Hmm.
But this side of my life, whether it's podcasting, coaching, writing, this is about giving back and about helping not just people, but I'm a huge animal lover and a pet mom. And it's also about touching the lives of people in such a way that, the Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam is actually, implemented in the world today. I would say recently the Delhi stray dog issue was very
Hmm.
dear to my heart, and I used my platform to speak loudly about how this should not happen. And I'm very, very proud that the Supreme Court of India, has taken the right decision and taken that back.
So, ma'am, as we talked about a lots of things now, probably my last question to of this podcast would be like there has to be an endless conversation between two of us, but actually we are a little time constraint
We
is
can
there.
do it offline.
Exactly, ma'am. So, ma'am, probably my last question to of this podcast is like after listening to this podcast, बहुत सारे ऐसे लोग होंगे जो लिखना स्टार्ट करना चाहेंगे या फिर लेट्स से उनका पहला ड्राफ्ट उनके लैपटॉप में, उनके डायरी में, उनके नोटबुक में होगा. So, what would be your advice for those upcoming authors?
I would say likho. It doesn't matter whether it is good, bad, ugly, सब कुछ मालूम है, ending मालूम है, topics मालूम है. It doesn't matter. Just start writing. It's a process. It's a therapy. And I genuinely believe that every human being has a book inside them. So get that book out. Be disciplined about your writing. One of the techniques I can definitely say that I use is I actually create the contents before I write the book. In other words, I create the contents page. I say, okay, this is the topic, and these are the things that I want to touch upon in the topic. So आप पहले अपना content page चाहिए तो बना सकते हैं, और फिर एक एक topic को लेके आप उसके बारे में लिख सकते हो. It's a way of adding some method to the madness. But for a lot of people, the process is just random and creative. So just write. And yeah, one last thing. Please don't use ChatGPT. Be authentic. Be yourself.
Exactly. Okay, so that's all for today, guys. I hope you must have enjoyed this lovely and inspiring conversation with Meenakshi ma'am. And if you do, then do follow our podcast, Reading the Author, available on all the leading podcast platforms. Don't forget to buy and read the book. आप जस्ट Amazon पे जाएं, वहाँ पे सर्च करें मीनाक्षी राव, मैम की तीनों बुक्स आ जाएंगी. जरूर खरीदें, पढ़े और अपने चाहने वाले, जानने वालों से जरूर शेयर करें. डू सब्सक्राइब टू मैम्स यूट्यूब चैनल. आपको डिस्क्रिप्शन में आपको लिंक मिल जाएगी, आप वहां से जाके जरूर फॉलो करिएगा. एंड यू कैन फॉलो मैम ऑन इंस्टाग्राम एज वेल. लिंक यहाँ पे आपको कहीं शो हो रही होगी, नीचे ऊपर कहीं भी हम लोग उसको पेस्ट कर देंगे. एंड थैंक यू सो मच मैम फॉर कमिंग ऑन आवर शो. इट वॉज माई ऑनर टू बी एबल टू होस्ट यू टुडे.
Thank you so much, Gaurav. And I'm very, very honored and very, very grateful to you for this opportunity. And I'm very happy to connect with your audiences. My love to all of them.